sector getting slammed this week. The Invesco QQQ ETF touching its lowest level since October of last year. Is this pullback a buying opportunity, or should you steer clear? Well, let's discuss that. Let's bring in EMJ Capital founder Eric Jackson and T. Rowe Price portfolio manager Tony Wang. It's great to have you both. Eric, I'm going to start with you. Is this a buying opportunity? Do we have further to fall?
Hey, Morgan, I think you want to kind of see how the beginning of next week plays out. I think it's quite likely we're near a bottom, and certainly sentiment seems washed out. But we've gotten a few head fakes just in this past week. So I would love to see the QQQs like hit 500, maybe like something like 498, 497, slightly higher than where we closed today, as sort of like a sign of an all clear. But then, once we get that, there's a lot of buying opportunities with this 10% correction under our belts here.
Tony, I want to get your thoughts on, we've been talking about a broader stock rotation, looking across the sectors of the S&P, but I wonder if we're seeing one within tech, within software, within the AI trade in general right now, and maybe that is shifting from the so-called picks and shovels, or at least the original players like the NVIDIAs of the world, to other players now, maybe case in point Broadcom after the earnings we got after the bell yesterday. Your thoughts, and if so, what's compelling?
Yeah, I think that, within tech, there's always groups of stocks that are working and groups of stocks that are not. And so I think that you saw the Mag 7 really dominate the last 2 years. And I think going into this year, I think that there was a lot of concern over the CapEx that's being spent. I mean, they're kind of becoming fundamentally different businesses in some respect in terms of the capital intensity. And then on top of that, you had kind of more inline reports. And so when you're spending a lot of CapEx and you're coming in line, I think that tends to set up for a tougher stock reaction. And so, I think there's other areas in tech that naturally things will broaden out to, like things that have more bottoming fundamentals and can have a little bit easier setup. So I think that, we're looking for like more broadening. And, I think that these are still like very good companies and they're still like a core part of tech portfolios. But I think there's opportunity elsewhere as well.
Eric, at what point is it not really an issue of market timing so much as you look at a group of stocks, and if you're looking to be in them for 3-5 years, it's just a decent time to buy? And I look at MongoDB, which really had a rough print based on the guidance. It's trading now about where it was part of the spring of 2020, May 2020, 5 years ago almost. I look at Samsara reaction to that stock, which tends to guide conservatively anyway. We've got the CEO coming up soon. C3AI, similar, down near $20 a share. I mean, these are the names that were high flying. They're certainly at low altitude now.
Yeah, I think you're right, John. I would just say that rather than go for some of those names that you just mentioned, like Mongo, I like some smaller names that have had some recently like really strong earnings, but they're still kind of under the radar. So, one of my favorites is Root Insurance right now. Swung from like a loss of 170 million, a year ago to like now being squarely in the black, making 30 million this past year. 2 really strong earnings reports back to back. They were one of these insure tech IPOs that came out in 2021. But they're like, they're at 130 today. They came out at 500. They probably deserve to be back at 500 at least by next year, and yet they're still sort of flying under the radar. Chinese internet names are probably the part of tech that are working the best. Everyone talks about Alibaba, but I own VIP Shop, where 56% of its market cap is cash on the balance sheet. I just think there are some other names like that. Rigetti Computing has been sort of forgotten about after Jensen's comments in January, and yet the week after next, NVIDIA is having its Quantum Day. So I guess Quantum is maybe not 30 years away, and so I like some their earnings and their partnership that they announced a couple of days ago.